Welcome to Behind the Mic, where the subjects are audiobooks and the actors who narrate them. I'm Joe Reed, and with me, contributor Laura Rossi.
Hi, Joe.
You are going to do your Earphones podcast, so very briefly, just explain what you're going to be talking about.
So this is our first Earphones of 2026, and I am so lucky because the format for our conversations are 3 audiobooks. The first is a title I've already listened to. The second is an audiobook I'm currently listening to. And then the third title is the audiobook that is next up on my to-listen list.
And what they have in common is that they're all Earphones Award winners.
Yes.
And the 3 are, drum roll.
Dun, 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 dun. The first title is Return of the Spider, an Alex Cross thriller by James Patterson, read by Dion Graham and Fred Berman. That's the title I listened to. Listening to now, I am listening to Book of Lives by Margaret Atwood, read by Margaret Atwood. The third title, Bird City, Adventures in New York's Urban Wilds by Ryan Goldberg, read by Evan Sibley.
Okay, so we're beginning with Alex Cross, what you've listened to, and I will tell you right up front, I listened to it too. So let's talk.
This is a terrific title. This is book 33 in the Alex Cross series by James Patterson. Everyone's heard of the Alex Cross detective stories, and this audiobook, to me, felt like a standalone title.
Yeah, I completely agree because I don't know what else I've listened to in the Alex Cross series, or if I have, it's been a long time. And I was immediately immersed in this and knew where I was right away.
Joe, I had the same experience. And let's just get right to it. Dion Graham as one of the narrators, along with Fred Berman. And I don't really need to say more, but I will. Dion Graham, golden voice, Audie and Earphones Award-winning narrator, celebrated actor, recently on Broadway. I mean, just flawless. He's a personal favorite, a friend, and he just embodies Alex Cross and all of the characters in a perfectly paced performance throughout the entire audiobook. And Fred Berman, equally as excellent in all parts of his narration. He does do a very chilling Gary Sonji. It's sharp, intense, very precise, and also has, an incredible resume. And the combination of the two in this audiobook is a masterful performance, Joe. From start to finish, I never wanted to pause this 8.5-hour audiobook. I was in it for the performance, of course, the plot, but their skills are just, there aren't enough adjectives to describe. Really, I'm raving and I'm over the top because I couldn't think about anything else when I was listening to this audiobook. I kept trying to get back to it.
Let me just say that the book is divided basically, it's 2 voices that go back and forth. And it's Dion Graham basically as Alex Cross in the Alex Cross world, and then Fred Berman as our psychopathic murderer. Then we have his world, and chapters just keep switching between the two. So that pacing, it really is very chilling, and it just keeps moving the plot along. But the second thing is that this is sort of a callback to the first book in the Alex Cross series, Along Came a Spider, hence the title, Return of the Spider. So it's almost a companion novel
Yes,
to the first book.
exactly. The first title you mentioned, Along Came a Spider, was the first book that introduced everyone to Detective Alex Cross and to readers everywhere. And now 33 books later, this is essentially Cross going back and retracing some of the steps of his pursuit and detective work, going after the longtime serial killer, Gary Sonji. And Alex is confronted with some of his own missteps and things that, as a rookie homicide detective with his partner John Sampson, he's really looking at that with a bit of maturity and I think a different eye.
And it's really interesting to have that throwback to Alex as a rookie detective.
It's fun, and again, Dion does a remarkable job of putting us, in those times, sort of taking us back to. And the other thing I want to mention is Dion also just really brings life to all of the other more minor characters, from his wife to, Baby Cross to Nana Mama and beyond.
I agree, as does Fred Berman as Gary, and the way he brings life to Gary's world, Gary's wife and coworkers, et cetera, et cetera. They're both Audio Award winners, and they both narrate a wide range of books. So this was a really perfect cast, I think, for this book. Why don't we hear a little?
Yes, I have a sound sample for you and the listeners. This is Dion Graham as Alex Cross with his partner, Detective John Sampson. And both are voiced by Dion, and they're arriving at an investigation in this clip.
This is Return of the Spider, an Alex Cross mystery by James Patterson, read by Dion Graham and Fred Berman. And we'll be hearing from Dion.
3 hours later, after devouring breakfast and stopping twice for coffee, we were in a desolate area of New Jersey on a 2-lane highway flanked by dense pines. We didn't need the exact address in the end. North of Batstow, we saw FBI vehicles, coroner's office vans, and New Jersey State Police patrol cars parked on both sides of a rutted gravel driveway that snaked uphill and into the pines. We got out of the car and walked over to 2 young FBI agents standing at the end of the driveway. "Captain Barthalis called us in," I said, showing them my credentials. "Who's in charge?" "Agent Mahoney," one of them said. "He just arrived on scene." Ned Mahoney's presence meant this was a very high-profile case. It helped that he'd been my partner back when we both worked in the FBI's behavioral science unit. "This way?" Sampson asked, gesturing up the driveway. "Yeah, they're up there."
Dion is such a subtle narrator. That difference between Sampson's voice and Alex's, you hear the difference, but it's not so dramatic. He's just a master. And I have to say, Dion Graham has never let me down as a listener.
I agree, Joe. And I will confess that a lot of my audiobook selections, if Dion Graham is listed as the narrator or even part of a multicast, it goes right in the pile of, I'm planning to listen to this title.
I'm there with you. Okay, now Book of Lives by Margaret Atwood, and it's narrated by Margaret Atwood. Share what this is about.
So Margaret Atwood calls this a memoir of sorts, and it's about 25 and a half hours. So, she gets into a lot of memoir and family history. And I picked this title. I'm listening to it now because I realized, it's the opportunity to hear her in her own voice. She's in her 80s now, although I've read and listened to many of her novels, Cat's Eye, Handmaid's Tale, The Blind Assassin. I haven't spent a lot of time listening to Margaret Atwood talk about Margaret Atwood. And that's the reason I picked the book. I know as far as the performance goes, her voice may not be flowing the way it does for, professional performances like Dion's that we just talked about. But I'm really sort of looking at things around topics of ageism, the literary world, and I felt like this really checked off boxes of what I wanted to plug into next.
It's interesting because I listened to part of it, and I love the title, Book of Lives.
Yes.
I think that's a wonderful title. This is a book I would like to read in print because I would listen and I would actually be taken in and out of the story because of her narration, which I think is quite dry and has a bit of odd pacing.
That's fair. I mean, you have a really fine ear, and so I appreciate talking back and forth about her performance.
In the bits that I've listened to, I just loved hearing about her parents and where she got her love of and comfort in nature. And her observations are just so telling and thoughtful. And I really look forward to reading it.
This might be one that I even consider dipping into and reading in print. For me, one of the selection criteria was I wanted something I could listen to in bits and pieces. So I'm not sitting down and really just going sort of hour after hour, but rather parsing it out for walks or chores or that thing we all have in common, folding laundry. And I like the comfort of hearing her voice. It's a little gravelly, but for me, it's solid. And things like her relationship to nature and how she got the nickname Peggy Nature, her talk about her parents, and realizing that She's in this sort of golden era of her writing and her contributions as a literary citizen. So it feels like a real treat.
Yeah, and I get that. We're all different, and I think in the same way every author isn't for every reader, every voice isn't for every listener.
Absolutely. And the last thing I'll say about this title is I'm doing lots of confessions in our conversation today, Joe, but I've never really spent much time ever listening to Margaret Atwood interviews or things on NPR, clips of her readings. I realized I've almost entirely read her in print. So I'm probably a bit of an outlier. And that is the other reason I am enjoying this audiobook right now.
Okay, let's hear a little, shall we?
Yes, Margaret's talking about her family and the concept of home in this short sound clip.
All right. Book of Lives by Margaret Atwood, read by Margaret Atwood.
All the Nova Scotians I've known have been universally homesick. I'm not sure why, but so it has been. Both of my parents always referred to Nova Scotia as home, causing some confusion for me as a child. If Nova Scotia was home, where was I living? In some sort of not home? Ours is a family shrub, not a family tree. If you have roots in the Maritimes and meet someone else with similar roots, you find yourself picking your way through the shrubbery. Who is your father? Who is your mother, grandfather, grandmother, from where? And so on, until you establish the fact that you are related. Or not. This can go on for some time.
See, that's a wonderful piece.
Yes.
And it makes me want to go to Nova Scotia.
I know. I kept jotting down Nova Scotia, and I've traveled to Canada many times in my life, and I'm thinking, well, I think I'm due for a Canada trip again. And just in general, listening to that clip with you, Joe, just makes me feel gratitude for living in the same time that Margaret Atwood is alive.
Amen to that. I agree. And finally, what you are going to listen to next.
Bird City is my next title, Joe. And this title, author Ryan Goldberg takes us to all 5 boroughs of New York City. And he gives us a surprising and delightful view of the concrete jungle by talking about the diverse bird population. I've read about this book and I became inspired by 3 things. And this is why it's next up for me. The new-ish, we're in February now, Kirkus Audiobooks editor Jennifer Dowell is a passionate and very experienced birder. I am a new birder since the pandemic, and I love New York. And the combination of all these reasons made me think, why don't I look at NYC from a different point of view? And so I listened to the sound sample. The narration by Evan makes me think I'm hearing from Ryan, and I can't wait to start this one.
Right. Evan Sibley is the narrator, and he's the son of ornithologist and author David Allen Sibley. And in fact, he's narrated What's It Like to Be a Bird, which was written by his father.
Yes, and he also narrated a fiction titled Birding with Benefits and
Backyard Bird Chronicles by Amy Tan.
So there's a theme.
Yeah, so
what a great theme.
So he is comfortable with birds.
He is comfortable with birds, and I would like for 2026 to be a year that I get more comfortable with my own birding. So it is really a treat that this is next up for me.
Well, I'm so glad you brought this up because I'm from New York, and birding is nothing that I'm doing now, but it's moving up the list of things that I do want to do. And I find it so extraordinary.
Yes.
That there are tons of different birds in New York. I mean, a variety of birds and not just pigeons.
As someone who's lived in New York and, an NYC gal at heart, right. We're mostly thinking pigeons, but there's so much more. And we're going to listen to a clip in a minute. Before we get to that, though, I would like to say, if we're in New York at the same time, I would love to meander around, maybe when the weather's a little warmer, and try out some birding, break out those binoculars, bring our book, and have some fun.
Oh, that would be great. I would love to do that. And I just also want to give another shout out to Ryan Goldberg, who's an independent journalist who often writes for the New York Times. I have not read this book, but his writing is always Very, very good. It's very clear, it's very accessible, and he has a real curiosity that I've always appreciated.
And you'll hear some of that in our sound samples. So this is just where we're hearing about the topic of invasion biology and how that relates to birds. In this clip that mentions the American Museum of Natural History.
All right, this is Bird City, Adventures in New York's Urban Wilds by Ryan Goldberg, read by Evan Sibley.
I left the Christmas bird count with a nagging feeling. The booing at the mention of starlings, pigeons, and house sparrows had, like pinpricks blooming into bruises, grown into a misshapen and uncomfortable sensation. What made these birds so unlovable? We're the ones who brought them here in the first place. The widespread origin story for starlings, the Shakespeare story, claims that they were introduced to North America in the late 19th century by Eugene Schieffelin, a wealthy New Yorker who wanted all the birds of Shakespeare to populate the New World. It makes a tidy tale, one I've heard on more birding trips than I can recall. Since then, sentiments have clearly changed. Now, we're dealing with an invasive species. Hoping to unravel the yarn of a maligned bird, I made the trek one January morning to the American Museum of Natural History. There, in the back of a sterile-looking storage room, was a metal cabinet holding the preserved bodies of some of the original invaders. Paul Sweet crouched down and pulled out a shallow tray from cabinet 59B, labeled with Sturnus vulgaris, the scientific name for the common or European starling. Inside were 3 rows of faded and slumped birds, belly up. He placed the tray on a counter and began checking their tags.
Oh, I love that starling story, though. I really do.
I know. I felt like I was in the room. They talk about, beginning to check the tags, and this is a special listen. So,
yeah, and I think it shows Goldberg the way he writes. His imagination is twigged by something, and he'll go down that path and bring you with him.
Yes, and it's such a great lens to see Manhattan and the boroughs through.
Absolutely.
Through birding. So you maybe take a field trip, Central Park. We can decide in the spring when we're not wearing our fuzzy socks.
That sounds perfect. Laura, I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe.
You've been listening to Behind the Mic by Kirkus Reviews. Behind the Mic drops on Thursdays. And if you follow us, we simply appear in your feed. And while you're at it, follow Fully Booked by Kirkus Reviews. Fully Booked is the podcast for book lovers. Every Tuesday, Kirkus editors and host Megan Labrise bring you author interviews, industry insights, and recommendations from the bestseller list. Find your next great book on Fully Booked by Kirkus Reviews. Follow Fully Booked and Behind the Mic on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, or wherever you get your podcasts. And stop by kirkusreviews.com to check out reviews for both print and audiobooks. Behind the Mic is produced by Jessica Lockhart. Michelle Cobb, Stephen Cummings, Leslie Fine, Alan Menskoff, Alex Ritchie, Laura Rossi, and Kendra Winchester are our contributors. Jennifer Dow is our editor with an assistance from Alicia Langerman. And Tom Beer is the executive producer. The music is William Ross Chernoff's Nomads 4-Way. And I'm your host, Joe Reed. Good listening.